Welcome to Restful Remembrance, where history becomes your lullaby. Tonight, we journey to the heart of the ancient world, the Roman Empire. From bustling streets of the Eternal City to quiet countryside villas, we'll explore the daily lives of those who built one of history's greatest civilizations. Close your eyes, get comfortable, and let the past guide you to sleep. Life in the Roman Empire unfolded at a pace that was steady, familiar, and deeply connected to repetition. Each day followed a path that had been walked many times before, shaped by habits that rarely changed, and rhythms that were accepted without question. Morning did not arrive suddenly. It came gradually, almost quietly, as the first light of the sun began to soften the darkness left behind by the night. The world did not wake all at once. It returned slowly, piece by piece. For most Romans, time was not something to be counted or controlled. It was something that passed gently, almost unnoticed. Hours were not divided sharply. Instead, they blended into one another, marked by the movement of light across walls and streets, by the warmth of the air as the sun rose higher, and by the slow appearance of familiar sounds. The day did not demand attention. It allowed itself to be entered calmly. Daily life was built around repetition. The same actions were performed each morning. The same paths were taken through narrow streets. The same doors were opened, and the same views appeared again and again. Over time, these repeated moments created a sense of calm stability. People knew what to expect from the day, and that knowledge removed the need for urgency. Life felt predictable, and in that predictability, there was comfort. The city itself supported this steady rhythm. Streets were narrow and made for walking. Buildings stood close together, creating long shadows that moved slowly as the sun climbed higher. Sounds carried clearly, but never overwhelmed the senses. Footsteps echoed lightly against stone. Voices rose briefly and then faded. Carts moved at an unhurried pace. Nothing pushed the day forward faster than it wished to go. Silence played an important role in Roman life. Without constant noise, quiet moments appeared naturally throughout the day. These moments were not seen as empty or uncomfortable. They were simply part of life. People were accustomed to being alone with their thoughts, or to observing their surroundings without the need to fill the space with conversation. Stillness was familiar and accepted. Roman homes reflected the same calm order found in the streets. Living spaces were practical and restrained, designed to support daily routines rather than to impress. Furniture was simple and limited. Rooms were used for many purposes, changing function as the day progressed. Light entered slowly through small openings, creating gentle transitions between brightness and shadow. Inside, time seemed to slow even further. Life indoors followed the same quiet rhythm as life outside. Tasks were completed without hurry. Activities repeated themselves day after day, becoming familiar and almost effortless. There was no expectation to rush through work in order to reach rest. Work and rest existed within the same steady flow. Each had its place, and neither needed to dominate the day. The strength of Roman society rested not in dramatic events, but in these ordinary routines. Farmers worked their land in familiar ways, guided by the seasons. Artisans practiced the same skills day after day, refining them slowly over time. Families followed habits that had been passed down through generations. These repeated actions created a foundation of stability that supported the larger structure of the empire. Change, when it came, arrived quietly. It was absorbed slowly into daily life, rather than forcing sudden adjustments. People adapted gradually, adjusting habits over time without disruption. This slow pace reduced tension and allowed life to remain balanced. There was little pressure to constantly improve or reinvent oneself. Life was meant to continue smoothly, not to accelerate. The Roman day encouraged acceptance. People accepted the limits of daylight and the need for rest. They accepted physical effort as part of daily life. When evening approached, activity naturally slowed. There was no struggle against the coming night. The end of the day was welcomed calmly, just as the morning had been. As we begin to explore everyday life in the Roman Empire, it is helpful to set aside modern ideas of speed and efficiency. Roman life was not slow because it lacked purpose. It was slow because it valued balance, familiarity, and continuity. Days unfolded gently, supported by routines that allowed people to live without constant pressure or distraction. One familiar day followed another, creating a steady flow that carried people forward without strain. In this quiet repetition, the Roman world found its rhythm. And within that rhythm, daily life moved calmly, patiently, and without hurry. Morning in a Roman city arrived slowly, without any clear signal to mark its beginning. The day did not start with sound or movement, but with light. As the darkness of night began to fade, the sky above the rooftops changed almost imperceptibly. Shadows softened. The air felt lighter. The city remained still, yet the presence of a new day could already be felt. This transition from night to day was not dramatic. It unfolded quietly, allowing the city to remain at rest, even as time moved forward. The light did not force itself into the streets. It waited, moving gradually, as if respecting the stillness that remained from the night. Light reached the highest parts of the city first. Roof tiles and upper walls caught a gentle glow, while narrow streets below remained in shadow. This gradual movement of light shaped the rhythm of the morning. Nothing happened all at once. The city was allowed to wake in stages, without urgency or interruption. In these early moments, time felt wide and unconfined. There was no pressure to act, no need to hurry. The morning existed simply as a slow unfolding, giving space for both the city and its people to adjust naturally. Most Romans did not wake suddenly. Their sleep faded naturally as light entered their homes through small openings. There was no sharp line between night and day. One state slowly gave way to the other. Eyes opened without effort. Breathing remained calm and steady. The body adjusted gently, guided by light rather than sound. Often, people remained still for a short while after waking. These moments were quiet and unstructured. Thoughts drifted without focus. The body rested between sleep and movement, allowing awareness to return gradually. Morning was not something to confront, it was something to enter gently. Inside Roman homes, the early hours were quiet. Stone walls held the coolness of the night, and the air felt fresh and calm. Light moved slowly across interior spaces, revealing familiar shapes and surfaces that had not changed. These moments of quiet were expected and accepted. Silence was a familiar part of daily life. Without constant noise, quiet moments appeared naturally. A distant footstep, the soft opening of a door, or a faint voice carried through the streets before fading again. These sounds did not disturb the calm. They blended into the background, forming a steady and reassuring atmosphere. As the light grew stronger, movement slowly returned to the city. People stood, stretched, and prepared for the day ahead. Movements were deliberate and unhurried. There was no pressure to move quickly. The morning provided space for adjustment, allowing both body and mind to settle into the day. When people stepped outside, they followed paths they had walked many times before. The streets of Rome were narrow and designed for walking rather than speed. Each step felt familiar. Walking required little thought. The body remembered the way, allowing the mind to remain calm and unoccupied. Movement through the city was steady and quiet. People walked alone or in small groups, often without speaking. Footsteps echoed softly against stone, creating a gentle rhythm that repeated each morning. This rhythm did not change. It returned day after day, offering a sense of continuity. Breakfast, when taken, was simple. Bread, water, or diluted wine offered enough nourishment to begin the day. Eating was not an event. It was a small part of the morning routine, completed without attention or ceremony. Life continued to flow without pause. As the sun rose higher, light reached deeper into the city. Shadows shifted slowly along walls and across stone streets. Familiar places appeared slightly different as the angle of light changed, even though nothing had moved. This gradual change marked the passage of time more clearly than any clock. With the passing of these moments, the city felt fully present, not awake in a sudden way, but gently aligned with the day. Light, movement, and sound settled into balance. Work did not begin suddenly. It emerged naturally from the morning. Shops opened when their owners were ready. Tools were gathered without haste. Artisans prepared their spaces quietly. There was no clear moment when the working day began. It simply became part of the ongoing rhythm. Throughout the morning, there was a sense of balance. Actions flowed smoothly from one to the next. Walking turned into work. Work blended into movement again. There were no sharp transitions. Life unfolded as a continuous process, steady and calm. Morning in a Roman city was not about achievement or urgency. It was about alignment. Light, space, and movement slowly came together. The day did not push forward. It settled gently into place, ready to continue in the same rhythm that had shaped Roman life for generations. Roman homes were places of shelter, routine, and quiet continuity. They were not designed to impress or display wealth in obvious ways, but to support daily life as it unfolded slowly over time. From the outside, many homes appeared simple and reserved. Walls were solid and plain, offering little indication of what lay within. This outward simplicity reflected a desire for privacy and calm, rather than attention. Crossing the threshold of a Roman home often meant leaving behind the movement of the street. As the doorway closed, sounds softened almost immediately. The distant rhythm of footsteps and voices faded into the background. Inside, the pace of life became noticeably slower. The home created a clear separation between public space and private routine, allowing the day to continue without interruption from the outside world. Light played a central role in the interior of Roman houses. Open courtyards or carefully placed openings allowed daylight to enter gradually, spreading softly across floors and walls. This light did not flood the space. It moved slowly, shifting throughout the day as the sun changed position. These familiar patterns of light and shadow repeated themselves day after day, marking time gently and without urgency. Rooms within Roman homes were not rigidly defined by purpose. The same space might serve for rest, quiet work, eating, or simple reflection at different moments of the day. Furniture was minimal and often easy to move. This flexibility allowed daily life to adapt naturally, without the need for constant rearrangement or decision-making. Movement within the home felt intuitive and unforced. The interior atmosphere was calm and restrained. Decoration, when present, was modest and balanced. Colors were soft, materials were natural, and nothing was meant to overwhelm the senses. This simplicity encouraged a feeling of ease. The home did not compete for attention. It provided a stable background against which daily life could unfold quietly. Silence inside the home was common and comfortable. Without mechanical noise or constant activity, long periods of quiet were normal. Sounds that did appear were familiar and gentle. Footsteps moved slowly across stone floors. The quiet movement of air passed through open spaces. Occasional voices were low and unhurried. These sounds did not interrupt the calm. They became part of it, blending naturally into the environment. As the day progressed, the interior of the home remained steady. Morning light gradually gave way to brighter midday illumination, and later to softer tones once again. Each phase of the day felt distinct, yet connected. Time inside the home was experienced through these gradual changes, rather than through clocks or schedules. Daily tasks were completed slowly and without pressure. Preparing food, arranging simple belongings, or pausing to rest were all part of the same gentle rhythm. There was no need to hurry through these activities. The home allowed time to stretch, creating space between actions and thoughts. This unhurried pace supported both physical rest and mental calm. During the warmer parts of the day, interior spaces offered shade and relief. Thick walls moderated temperature, keeping the air cooler and more stable. This contrast with the outside world encouraged stillness. People naturally slowed down, conserving energy and maintaining balance without conscious effort. The home was also a place of deep familiarity. Every surface, every corner, was known through daily repetition. Movement within these spaces required little thought. The body remembered where to walk, where to sit, where to pause. This familiarity reduced effort and allowed attention to soften, leaving room for quiet awareness. As afternoon approached, light once again shifted within the home. Shadows lengthened slowly. The atmosphere became even quieter. Activities naturally slowed, without instruction or planning. The home responded gently to the changing day, just as it had in the morning. Roman homes supported continuity. One day flowed into the next with little variation. This stability was not limiting. It was reassuring. Knowing that the interior world would remain steady allowed people to move through their lives with a sense of ease and security. Within these quiet interior spaces, daily life found its rhythm. The home did not demand attention or effort. It simply existed, offering shelter, routine, and calm. Inside these walls, the Roman day continued its steady movement, unhurried and balanced, just as it had for generations. Food in the Roman world was closely connected to routine, time, and balance. Meals were not moments designed to impress or entertain, but quiet pauses that supported the steady movement of the day. Eating followed the same calm rhythm as work, rest, and walking through the city. It was shaped by habit rather than desire, by familiarity rather than choice. Through food, the Roman day remained grounded and predictable. The first food of the day was usually simple and light. Morning meals were not meant to satisfy hunger completely, but to gently prepare the body for movement. A piece of bread, sometimes softened with water or accompanied by diluted wine, was often enough, This small amount of nourishment allowed energy to return gradually, without heaviness. Eating in the morning did not interrupt the day. It blended quietly into it, almost unnoticed. Before eating, there was often a short period of waiting. Nothing happened during this time. The body simply rested in place. Hunger was present, but gentle. This pause did not feel empty. It felt natural. It allowed the body to recognize the moment without urgency. This quiet waiting was part of the rhythm of the day. There was no urgency around these early meals. People ate slowly, without distraction. The act of eating was calm and unremarkable. It did not demand attention or ceremony. Food was taken as needed, not as something to be anticipated or celebrated. These moments passed gently, leaving no sharp impression behind them. As the morning continued, hunger appeared gradually. There were no sudden signals or strong sensations. The body asked quietly for nourishment, and this request was answered in time. Preparation of food followed familiar patterns. Hands moved in ways they had repeated countless times before. Tasks required little thought. The mind could remain still while the body worked. Preparing food was itself a calming process. Movements were steady and unhurried. Ingredients were simple and known. Each action followed the last, without pause or decision. This repetition created a feeling of stability. Time seemed to slow during these moments. Even though nothing had changed, the main meal often came later in the day, when work naturally began to slow. Before eating, there was again a brief pause. People remained still. Breathing slowed. The body shifted gently from effort toward rest. This pause marked the transition without words or signals. Food marked a soft boundary in the day. It did not stop life. It softened it. Eating allowed the body to settle without fully resting. Chewing was slow. Pauses between movements were common. Attention drifted gently. The body absorbed nourishment at its own pace. Meals were often shared with others, but conversation was not required. Silence was common and accepted. Eating did not need to be filled with words. The presence of others was enough. The shared quiet created a sense of connection without effort or expectation. The spaces where food was eaten were simple and uncluttered. There were few distractions. Attention was not pulled away. Eating remained grounded in the moment. The body remained calm, supported by familiar surroundings. After eating, movement did not return immediately. The body rested in place. Breathing slowed further. Sensation settled gradually. This period after eating was quiet and unstructured. It allowed nourishment to take effect without interruption. Only slowly did activity return. Standing happened without hurry. Walking resumed gently. The transition back into the day was smooth and unforced. Food did not divide the day sharply. It softened the passage of time. Throughout the day, meals helped maintain balance. They supported the body without overwhelming it. They created pauses without breaking the flow of life. Eating did not demand attention. It quietly supported everything that followed. Food was never separate from daily life. It was woven into it, repeating the same gentle pattern day after day. In this repetition, meals became more than nourishment. They became part of the structure that allowed the Roman day to move forward calmly, without strain, without urgency, and without excess. Work in the Roman world was woven quietly into everyday life. It did not stand apart as something separate or overwhelming. Instead, it followed the same steady rhythm as walking through the city, preparing food, or resting in the shade. For most people, work was not measured by ambition or speed. but by repetition and familiarity. Each day brought similar tasks, performed in similar ways, at a pace shaped by habit rather than urgency. Many Romans worked close to where they lived. Homes and workplaces were often connected, allowing daily life to remain compact and contained. This closeness reduced the need for long journeys and kept movement slow and predictable. The transition from rest to work was gentle. There was no sharp beginning to the working day. Tasks simply emerged naturally from the morning, blending into the flow of the day. Artisans practiced their skills quietly, repeating the same movements they had learned long ago. Hands moved with confidence, guided by memory rather than conscious thought. These repeated actions required little mental effort. Over time, work became almost meditative, allowing the mind to remain calm while the body remained active. The steady rhythm of the hands helped slow the passing of time. Each action followed the last without pause or decision. The body knew what to do. There was comfort in this familiarity. The same tools were held in the same way. The same motions were repeated again and again. This repetition reduced strain and allowed attention to soften, drifting gently without effort. Shopkeepers opened their spaces when they were ready. There was no signal announcing that work must begin. Doors opened slowly. Goods were arranged with care and familiarity. Shelves were checked, surfaces were cleaned, and everything was placed where it belonged. Each small action supported the next, creating a quiet order that rarely changed. As people passed by, work continued steadily. There was no pressure to attract attention or rush transactions. The day unfolded at its own pace. Moments of activity were followed by moments of stillness. These pauses appeared naturally, allowing the body to rest briefly before continuing. For laborers, work was physical but steady. Effort was expected, but it was not rushed. Tasks were spread across the day, allowing the body to conserve energy. Muscles worked, then relaxed. Breathing slowed during pauses. The body found its own rhythm, balancing effort and rest without conscious planning. Often, there were brief moments of waiting. A task paused while something was prepared. A tool was set aside. The body remained still for a short time. These pauses did not feel empty. They were part of the working rhythm, allowing energy to return before movement resumed. Work in the Roman world rarely demanded constant attention. There were long stretches of routine activity where little changed from one moment to the next. This predictability reduced tension. Knowing what was required allowed people to move through their tasks without anxiety or distraction. The mind did not need to anticipate or plan. It could simply follow the rhythm of the body. Many occupations were shaped by daylight. As the sun rose higher, work continued steadily. Light guided movement and pace. When the sun softened later in the day, activity naturally slowed. There was no attempt to force productivity beyond what the day allowed. Work respected the limits of time and energy. Silence was often present during work. Conversation was not always necessary. The sounds of tools, footsteps, and movement filled the space gently. These familiar sounds did not interrupt concentration. They created a quiet background, steady and reassuring, helping maintain a calm pace. Work was not separate from rest. The two blended into each other throughout the day. A task might pause briefly, then resume without urgency. Sitting, standing, and moving flowed together naturally. This gentle balance prevented exhaustion and supported endurance. For many Romans, work was shared with others. People worked alongside those they knew well. There was little need for instruction or supervision. Each person understood their role through repetition. This shared rhythm created quiet cooperation without the need for constant communication. As the day progressed, work gradually softened. Tasks were completed at a natural pace. There was no pressure to finish quickly. The end of work did not arrive suddenly. It faded into the later hours of the day, just as it had emerged from the morning. In this way, work became another steady element of daily life. It supported routine without dominating it. Through repetition, balance, and patience, work in the Roman world allowed life to continue calmly, without strain and without urgency. Movement through a Roman city followed a calm and steady rhythm. The streets were not places of haste or urgency, but spaces designed for walking, waiting, and gradual transition. Each step connected one part of daily life to another, allowing time to pass naturally without pressure. Movement itself became a quiet routine, woven gently into the fabric of the day. Roman streets were shaped by stone, use, and habit. Paths were familiar, walked countless times by the same people. The body remembered these routes without effort. Turning corners, stepping over uneven stones, and passing familiar doorways required little attention. Walking became almost automatic, allowing the mind to remain relaxed and unoccupied. The pace of movement was slow and deliberate. There was no reason to hurry. Destinations were close, and time was not measured strictly. People adjusted their speed naturally, guided by light, temperature, and the presence of others. Movement flowed without interruption, blending seamlessly with moments of pause and stillness. As people moved through the city, the surroundings changed gradually. Narrow streets opened into small public spaces, then closed again into quieter passages. Light shifted along walls and across stone surfaces. Shadows moved slowly, marking the passage of time without drawing attention to it. These subtle changes created a gentle sense of progress without urgency. Walking through the city often included brief pauses. Someone might stop to rest in the shade, wait for others to pass, or simply stand still for a moment. These pauses were not interruptions. They were part of the rhythm of movement, allowing the body to reset before continuing. Standing still felt as natural as walking. The sounds of the city were steady and familiar. Footsteps echoed softly against stone. Voices rose briefly and then faded. The movement of carts or animals passed slowly through the streets. These sounds did not overwhelm the senses. They formed a calm background that accompanied movement without demanding focus. Public spaces encouraged lingering rather than speed. People gathered casually, stood quietly, or sat for short periods. There was no expectation to move quickly through these areas. Movement slowed naturally, allowing observation and rest to blend into the day. Time seemed to stretch slightly in these open spaces. Walking connected different parts of daily life without creating sharp transitions. Leaving home did not feel abrupt. Arriving at work did not feel sudden. Each step carried the body smoothly from one activity to the next. Movement softened the boundaries between tasks, helping the day feel continuous and balanced. At times, walking served no clear purpose at all. People moved simply because movement felt natural. A short walk provided a change of air, a shift of light, or a moment of quiet separation between activities. These unplanned movements were common and unremarkable, yet they supported balance and calm. The body adjusted gradually as the day progressed. Muscles moved with familiarity. Breathing remained steady. There was little strain. Walking did not exhaust. It supported circulation and awareness without demanding effort. The repetition of steps created a gentle rhythm that the body followed instinctively. As the sun moved across the sky, movement through the city changed subtly. In brighter hours, steps were confident and steady. As light softened later in the day, movement slowed further. Pauses became longer. Routes felt quieter. These changes required no decision. The body responded naturally. The streets themselves encouraged this pace. Uneven surfaces, narrow passages, and shared spaces made speed unnecessary and impractical. Walking remained the most natural way to move. The city did not invite rushing. It invited presence. Movement was rarely solitary for long. Others passed by at similar speeds, creating a shared rhythm without coordination. People adjusted their pace to one another without thinking. This quiet synchronization reduced effort and created a sense of belonging within the flow of the city. As evening approached, movement softened again. Steps became slower. The city seemed to settle. Walking turned into gentle wandering rather than purposeful travel. The transition toward rest began without announcement, carried by the same steady rhythm that had shaped the day. In the Roman world, movement was not a means to rush toward something else. It was part of life itself. Walking allowed time to stretch, thoughts to settle, and the body to remain in balance. Through this steady movement, the city remained calm, familiar, and gently alive. Baths in the Roman world were places of gradual transition rather than activity. They were not visited in haste, and they were not meant to energize. Instead, they offered a slow movement away from effort and toward rest. Entering a bath was a quiet decision to pause, allowing the body and mind to release the rhythm of the day. The approach to the baths was unhurried. People arrived without urgency, guided by habit rather than by time. There was no fixed moment when bathing had to begin. Simply moving toward the baths already encouraged slowing down. Steps became quieter, breathing softened. The body began to anticipate rest before it fully arrived. Crossing into the bathing space created an immediate shift. Sounds from outside faded. The air felt warmer and more still. Movement became more deliberate. The body responded instinctively, easing tension without effort. Even standing quietly for a moment felt restful. Inside, the atmosphere remained calm and contained. Voices were low or absent. Silence was common and comfortable. The presence of others did not demand attention. Each person followed their own slow rhythm. Allowing attention to turn inward, the space itself encouraged patience. Bathing followed a gradual sequence. Each stage prepared the body for the next. Warmth increased slowly. Muscles loosened in their own time. Breathing deepened and became more regular. There was no need to think or decide. The body adjusted naturally, guided by sensation rather than by thought. Entering the water was done carefully. The temperature was felt fully. The body settled gradually, allowing warmth to spread slowly. Movement softened further. Muscles released tension that had accumulated throughout the day. Nothing needed to happen quickly. Time inside the baths felt wide and unstructured, without clear signals to move on. Moments stretched gently. People remained still or moved slowly through the space. Sitting, standing, and resting flowed into one another without clear separation. The body was allowed to remain at ease for as long as it needed. Water supported stillness. The gentle pressure against the body encouraged relaxation. Breathing slowed naturally. Awareness softened. Thoughts became less defined. Attention drifted without effort, following the steady rhythm of warmth and calm. Rest extended beyond the water itself. After bathing, people often remained nearby, sitting quietly or standing in warm, calm spaces. The body continued to relax, even after leaving the water. Warmth lingered in muscles and joints. This lingering calm was an essential part of the experience. There was no rush to leave. Movement resumed slowly. Standing felt lighter. Walking felt easier. The body carried a sense of ease that did not disappear immediately. Even small movements felt slower and more deliberate. Baths supported recovery rather than stimulation. They helped the body release the effort of work and movement. Muscles softened further. Breathing remained slow. The nervous system settled into stillness. The mind followed the body naturally, without resistance. The presence of others remained gentle and unobtrusive. Shared space felt calm rather than social. People moved around one another without urgency or attention. Quiet companionship supported rest without requiring interaction. As time passed, the body gradually prepared to leave. There was no clear signal marking the end of the visit. Readiness emerged slowly. The transition back into the world happened without sharp contrast. Calm remained present, even as movement returned. Bathing was not separate from rest. It was part of a longer process of slowing down. The body carried this calm forward, allowing the remainder of the day to unfold gently. Effort did not return immediately. Rest lingered in posture, breath, and movement. In the Roman world, baths offered more than cleanliness. They provided a structured pause, a space where slowing down was natural and expected. Through warmth, water, stillness, and time, the body and mind returned to balance, ready to continue calmly, without strain and without urgency. Evening in a Roman city did not arrive suddenly, and it did not announce itself in any obvious way. It came quietly, almost unnoticed, as the light of the day slowly began to soften. The sun lowered gradually, and with it the energy of the city began to ease. Brightness faded not all at once, but in small, gentle steps, allowing time to slow naturally. At first, the change was subtle. Walls that had appeared clear and defined during the day now seemed softer at their edges. Stone surfaces held the last warmth of sunlight for a while before releasing it. Shadows lengthened slowly, stretching across streets and doorways, settling into places they would occupy until morning. Nothing demanded attention. The city simply adjusted. Movement through the streets changed without effort. People walked more slowly, not because they decided to, but because the evening invited it. Steps became quieter. Pauses grew longer. Standing still for a moment felt natural. There was no need to hurry anywhere. The work of the day was already complete. Often, there were moments when people simply stopped, not to wait for anything, and not to do anything in particular. They stood near walls, at the edges of streets, or in doorways, allowing the light to change around them. These pauses did not feel empty. They felt appropriate, as if the evening itself had created space for stillness. Shops began to close quietly. Doors were drawn shut one by one, without ceremony. The sounds of trade faded gradually rather than disappearing at once. Voices became fewer and more distant. The city did not become silent, it became calm. Light during this time moved gently across the city. In some streets, sunlight lingered a little longer, touching walls at a low angle before fading away. In other places, Shadow arrived early and remained. These differences created a slow rhythm, as if time itself were stretching and relaxing. People often lingered during the evening. Some stood quietly near doorways, watching light fade without speaking. Others sat and remained still, allowing moments to pass without purpose. Walking without a clear destination became common. These movements were not meant to lead anywhere. They were simply part of the evening. Inside homes, the atmosphere changed along with the light. Interior spaces grew quieter as brightness softened. Lamps or small sources of light were used carefully, providing just enough illumination without fully replacing daylight. Shadows filled the corners of rooms, creating a sense of enclosure and safety. Inside these spaces, movement slowed even further. People sat without adjusting their position. Breathing became deeper and more even. There was no need to prepare or organize. The day had already finished its work. What remained was rest. Conversation, when it happened, was low and unhurried. Silence remained comfortable and complete. The presence of others felt reassuring rather than stimulating. Evening did not require attention or engagement. It allowed withdrawal without isolation. The body responded naturally to these changes. Breathing slowed without effort. Muscles released the last traces of tension from the day. Movements became economical and gentle. Sitting, standing, and resting blended together without clear separation. Outside, the streets grew quieter. Footsteps were less frequent. Sounds carried farther in the cooling air, then faded again. There were longer stretches where nothing could be heard at all. These quiet intervals were not unsettling. They felt natural. As the sky darkened further, the city released the final energy of the day. There was no clear moment when this happened. It unfolded gradually, guided by fading light and growing stillness. The city did not stop. It settled. Evening was not an ending. It was a long, gentle closing. It carried the calm of the day forward and prepared the ground for night. There was no need to think about what came next. The present moment was enough. In the Roman world, evening offered a quiet transition through lengthening shadows, fading light, repeated stillness, and deepening calm. The city eased itself toward rest. Life remained present and familiar, moving gently and without urgency, ready to continue when night fully arrived. Night in a Roman city did not move forward. It did not develop or change. Once it arrived, it simply remained. Darkness settled into the streets and stayed there, unhurried and complete. There was no signal to mark the beginning of night. It was simply present. The city no longer shifted or adjusted. Walls stood still. Streets lay empty. Doorways remained closed. Nothing invited movement. Nothing required attention. The city rested exactly as it was, without expectation. Time during the night felt different. It did not pass in noticeable moments. It stretched quietly, without direction. Minutes and hours were no longer important. The city existed in a single, continuous state of stillness. There were moments when a sound appeared briefly, distant and soft, then disappeared again. These sounds did not interrupt the night. They were absorbed by it. Silence returned immediately, steady and complete. Light was minimal and scattered. Small points of dim illumination appeared and faded without pattern. Shadows merged together, smoothing the outlines of buildings. Familiar places lost their details and became shapes, then simply presence. The streets were no longer pathways. They were empty spaces, holding the night. Movement through them was unnecessary. Everything that needed to arrive had already arrived. Everything that needed to stop had already stopped. Inside homes, bodies rested without effort. Breathing slowed naturally. Muscles released the final traces of tension. There was no need to adjust or prepare. Sleep came quietly, without decision. The night did not progress toward morning. It remained where it was. The city stayed asleep, balanced and complete. Nothing changed, and nothing needed to change. Awareness softened during these hours. Thoughts became fewer, then slower, then less distinct. Attention drifted without focus. The mind followed the stillness of the city, settling into the same quiet state. There were long stretches when nothing happened at all. No sound, no movement, no shift in light. These stretches were not empty. They were full of rest. The city held itself gently in this quiet. Walls held the darkness. Streets held the silence. The air remained cool and still. Everything rested exactly where it belonged. If a sound appeared, it did not last. If movement occurred, it was brief. The night quickly returned to stillness. Nothing disturbed the balance for long. The city did not sleep lightly. It slept deeply. Time rested along with it. The night was not a passage to be crossed. It was a place to remain. Moments blended together without edges. There was no reason to notice their passing. The night carried everything without effort, without motion, without demand. In the Roman world, night was not filled with meaning or action. It was filled with absence, absence of movement, absence of sound, absence of thought. This absence was complete and sufficient. The city remained still. The night remained long. Nothing changed, and nothing needed to change. Everything rested, quietly and completely, held in the same calm state until morning returned on its own. Deep night in the Roman city did not feel empty. It felt complete. Nothing was beginning. Nothing was ending. The city remained exactly as it was, held gently in darkness. Streets no longer waited for footsteps. Doorways no longer expected movement. Walls stood quietly, unchanged, supporting the weight of the night without effort. Time, during deep night, did not move forward in a straight line. It rested. Moments did not follow one another clearly. They blended together, forming a long, continuous stretch of stillness. Breathing slowed naturally. Each breath arrived without effort, then passed, then arrived again. There was no reason to notice it. The city did not respond to anything. It did not react to sound, because sound was rare. It did not react to light, because light was minimal. Darkness was even and soft. It did not hide things. It simply held them. Streets remained where they were. Buildings remained where they were. Nothing shifted. If a sound appeared, it was distant and brief. It rose gently, then dissolved back into silence. The night absorbed it completely. Stillness returned immediately. Inside homes, bodies rested without instruction. Muscles released what little tension remained. The weight of the body settled naturally, supported by the surface beneath it. There was no need to adjust, no need to turn, no need to move. Thoughts slowed, then became quieter. They did not disappear suddenly. They simply lost their edges. Awareness softened. The city did not mark time. There were no signals, no changes to notice, no reason to remain alert. Everything that needed to happen had already happened. Deep night held the city in a steady state, not asleep, not awake, simply resting. Minutes passed without being counted. Then more minutes passed the same way, then more. The difference between them no longer mattered. Breathing continued, slow, even, unremarkable. The body followed this rhythm without decision. Darkness remained consistent. Shadows did not move. Shapes did not change. The city felt distant, yet familiar. Present, yet quiet. Real, yet unimportant. Nothing demanded attention. Time stretched gently, without resistance. It did not pull forward. It did not push backward. It simply remained. If awareness drifted, it was fine. If attention faded, it was natural. There was nothing to hold on to. The night did not require observation. It required nothing at all. The city rested deeply now. Completely. Fully. Walls held the quiet. Streets held the darkness. Air remained cool and still. Nothing moved, nothing changed, and there was no need for it to. The night continued in this same way. Unbroken, undisturbed, gentle. Breathing continued, slowly, evenly. Each breath similar to the last. Each moment similar to the next. There was no reason to notice when one ended and another began. Deep night did not lead anywhere. It did not prepare for morning. It did not anticipate light. It existed only as it was. The city remained suspended in this quiet state, held by darkness, held by stillness, held by time that no longer mattered. Everything rested and continued to rest.